Welcome to Crime Over Wine Weekly. It's Monday, August 26th. I'm Heather Holley, and these are your crime headlines. A jury sentenced a Tennessee man to death last week. Sean Finnegan was convicted in the brutal 2019 murder of Jennifer Paxton. Investigators say he kidnapped Paxton in December of 2019, held her captive in his Oak Ridge apartment, repeatedly abused her, and eventually strangled the 35-year-old to death. Prosecutors say Finnegan stored her body in a freezer that he kept in his bedroom closet, and he would continue viewing her remains for sexual pleasure. The jury said these actions were heinous and cruel enough to warrant the death penalty. Finnegan was sentenced to die by lethal injection. However, Tennessee has yet to resume executions since Governor Lee halted them in 2022 when issues with state protocol and testing came to light. A Pennsylvania couple will spend 8 to 16 years in jail after their 7 children were found living in deplorable conditions. The investigation started in April of 2023 when police responded to a call about children entering an abandoned trailer. On the scene, officers found the children lived in the trailer next door, which was found to be unsafe and unsanitary. Authorities say they found a padlocked fridge, feces in several places, and several walls and parts of the floor in disrepair. The children, all between the ages of 4 and 16, were malnourished. None of them had ever attended school, and some didn't even know their birthday. Shane and Crystal Robertson pleaded guilty to 7 counts of child endangerment and 6 summary counts of animal neglect earlier this year. A judge sentenced the couple to up to 16 years in a state correctional institution last week. They also cannot have any contact with their children until they turn 18, and only with the approval of a court-appointed therapist. 3 years after going missing, Dee Ann Warner's remains have been found. 3 of Dee's adult children reported her missing in April of 2021. The night the 55-year-old disappeared, there was a business dispute between Dee, her husband Dale Warner, and a couple of her employees. In 2023, Dale Warner was charged with open murder and tampering, even though investigators had yet to find Dee's body. That changed this past week when authorities searched Dale's property in Tipton and located Dee's remains. Michigan State Police say Dee's death has been ruled a homicide, and the quote, manner of death has been confirmed. Authorities have not shared any additional details beyond that statement. Hello and welcome back to Crime Over Wine Weekly, your place to catch up on current crime headlines while discovering your next favorite bottle of wine. And of course, I couldn't be doing this without the criminally brilliant, sharp-witted Michelle Heron.
Oh my gosh, criminally brilliant? I'm like flattered.
Cue Britney Spears, Mama, I'm in love with a criminal.
Anyway, how are you, Heather?
I'm all right. I can't believe that we're in the last week of August.
I know. Like this, you're going to blink your eyes and it's going to be Christmas. You know that, right?
Yeah, I do.
Or you're going to blink your eyes and it's going to be Halloween.
I'm going to blink my eyes. It's going to be the day after Halloween, and I'm going to be sad.
True. Oh my gosh. But yeah, this year is flying by, and before we know it, we are going to be celebrating 1 year of Crime Over Wine Weekly, which is insane to think that we just started this year.
But it's almost been a year. I feel like I feel like I've only been doing this for a few weeks now.
It's because we have so much fun.
We do.
Maybe the wine is hindering your ability to remember.
That makes me sound like an alcoholic. Not pointing any fingers. But speaking of wine.
Exactly. You know what my segue is. And this week's bottle is totally a Heather pick. As soon as I saw the picture, I was like, that is a bottle of wine that Heather Holley would pick. But I am excited about it. I really liked the bottle when I saw it.
I wanted to go with something a little darker. We've done Chardonnay and Rosé past couple weeks, so we're doing a red this week. It's Angel's Ink Pinot Noir. It's a fruit forward with an integrated oak presence. The wine delights the palate with a crush of berry and vanilla-backed juiciness. Like a dynamic jazz ensemble, this wine is a beautiful composition of aromas and flavors, all working together to create melodic harmony in the bottle. So let's see if it creates some harmony in my mouth.
And on the front of the bottle, so the bottle is black. Everyone, what you can't see is everyone is rolling here because of what Heather just said. But the the bottle is black, and then the label, it has some angel wings that are gold, and so it's kind of mysterious. I don't know. I like it. It smells good. I was also like in the mood for like a good red this week. So, because yeah, we have done a lot of the lighter stuff here lately. So I have been also like craving something dark.
It's like I'm encouraging it to be fall. I'm tired of summer. Sorry, summer people.
Yeah, like maybe if we just don't like acknowledge summer anymore, will it just go away?
If I just keep wearing like flannels and hoodies, might die of a heat stroke, but I'll die in comfortable clothes at least.
Okay, cheers to that. Let's try this. Ooh,
Like it? Like it?
very like it's like flavorful but like mellow at the same time. Like it's not too much. I definitely do get the berry on the front. Like at first you think it's going to be super sweet, but then towards the end it's like it's mellow.
Yeah. It's very smooth going and not overpowering either. Like it's a strong flavor, but not knock you off your feet. Gag.
I do. I like this. This it's easy to drink. I now see why they say like how all the flavors work together and create a melodic harmony.
Yes, there is indeed harmony in my mouth. Anyway, you know what? Besides buying wine, you can also buy Crime Over Wine merch. The store is officially open.
Yes, so excited about this. And people have been talking about it, like talking about how it's like super cool that they can now buy merchandise and support Crime Over Wine and Crime Over Wine Weekly. And people have even been asking, like, is there going to be like more stuff added in the future? And hell yeah. I mean, why not? Like,
let's see how much y'all want to support us. Like, buy some merch and maybe more stuff will appear.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Gotta unlock that achievement.
New achievement unlocked. Also, so Crime Over Wine is officially back. Liam relaunched the beloved podcast with the Sauter Children case. So that took place Christmas Eve, 1945. There was a fire in Fayetteville, West Virginia. 10 children in total. 5 were believed to have died in the fire, but there was no evidence of them found in the fire. The theory was that that the mafia was like involved, and there's been billboards up for decades of the children for someone to come forward and help them solve this case. So it's definitely like, and when you see the pictures of these kids, like your heart goes out to them. Like, you know what I mean? These children on Christmas Eve of all nights, like, you know what I mean? Like there's so much excitement for so many kids on the night of Christmas Eve. I just like think about something like so horrible happening on such an exciting time.
And then what really hurt my mama heart was hearing all the efforts that the parents made trying to save the children that they thought were still trapped in that fire. And all of these things that are typically there and accessible just weren't there or weren't working. And it really feels like they were set up for failure. And it feels like it wasn't just an accident.
Yeah.
And granted, it was 1945. Technology wasn't what it is now. But the whole lack of 911, taking hours for firefighters to get there, just a lot went wrong. So, and then the whole like their remains weren't found in the fire.
Mm-hmm.
So their parents, until their dying day, had hoped that their children were still out there, and there were a few sightings. So hopefully in the afterlife they have peace and know what happened to their children and are possibly reunited in that way, if you believe in that. But really heartbreaking case and really confuzzling, like bamboozling.
Yeah, like where
math
are the
doesn't
kids?
Math.
Exactly. Where are the kids?
I think a lot of it's going to go back to the time period of you might have been a tight-knit community, but total lack of technology, of cameras, video evidence, whatnot. investigators doing very thorough research into what caused the fire.
So you can listen to that right now wherever you get your podcasts. It's Crime Over Wine, and again, the episode is The Sauter Children. So go ahead and give that a listen when you get a moment. But coming up on Crime Over Wine Weekly, we have lots to tell you about. A teenager goes missing from a mall in Florida, what investigators are saying about the 43-year mystery. Plus, a Myrtle Beach man is solving cold cases with his boogie board. Find out how after these messages.
Crime Over Wine is sponsored by BetterHelp. As someone who's used therapy for years, I know that finding a therapist can sometimes be a stress on its own, juggling your full-time job, your family, your friends, your podcast, and trying to find the right therapist on top of that can almost feel impossible. That's where BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp matches you with a therapist that works for you on your terms. It's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to one of 33,000 licensed professional therapists in as little as a few days. And because finding a new therapist is a lot like finding a new bottle of wine, if you don't jive with your therapist, you can easily switch to a new one at no additional cost. You can get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp by going to betterhelp.com/crimeoverwine. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/crimeoverwine for 10% off your first month. Join over 4 million people who decided to get help and get happy with BetterHelp.
An Indiana toddler and his aunt with special needs vanished 9 years ago, and their family is still holding out hope for answers. On July 25, 2015, Keen Walker's mother dropped him off at a relative's home in Gary, Indiana, so she could attend a class. The toddler was supposed to spend the day with his aunt, Diamond Bynum, and her stepmother, Suzanne Bynum. Suzanne said she took about a 40-minute nap in the early afternoon. When she woke up, Keen and Diamond were gone. Suzanne believed the pair went outside, like they had before, but when she couldn't find Keen or Diamond outside, she called police. Officers started searching for the toddler and young woman within an hour, going door to door and handing out flyers. After 4 days, investigators shifted to a large-scale search of nearby abandoned buildings. K-9 units tracked both Diamond and King's scents to a nearby gas station and train tracks, but nothing after that. Law enforcement searches were called off in early August due to a lack of resources. The Northwest Indiana Major Crimes Task Force re-examined the case in 2016 but didn't make any progress. In 2022, the Center of Missing and Exploited Children produced an age-enhanced photo of King, hoping to generate new leads. King was 2 years old when he went missing, and Diamond Bynum was 21 years old. King would be 11 now, and Diamond would be 30. If you know anything about this case, contact Gary Police at 219-881-1214.
Police in Florida are still searching for a teenager who went missing 43 years ago. Mary Opitz was 17 when she was last seen shopping at Edison Mall in Fort Myers with her mother in 1981. Her mom went to visit another store, so Mary took their shopping bags to the car and told her mom that she would wait for her there. When her mom came out, she saw the bags on the hood of the car, but no sign of Mary. If you have any information, call Southwest Florida Crime Stoppers at 1-800-780-TIPS. So this week I came across something wild. Listen to this. A guy in Myrtle Beach has solved 2 cold cases using a sonar device he made at home. WRAL reports Jason Southrada is a radiology technician in South Carolina. He created a homemade sonar device that can see underwater. He goes out with this device with his boogie board and is using it to scan bodies of water. Now, back in June, he found a car at the bottom of a creek in North Carolina. There were 3 missing men inside. This case was 40 years old. Since then, he became interested in missing persons cases in the area where he lives, one of them being a man by the name of Daniel Riggs. Daniel was last seen buying a quart of oil at a Food Lion in Myrtle Beach in 2015. A police report showed that his phone last pinged in an area called Georgetown. Jason went out to that area with his diving buddy and his homemade sonar device. This was a boat landing area. And sure enough, they found Daniel Riggs's Dodge Nitro. The diving buddy got the license plate, and then they took it to police. Police went and searched the area, and human remains were found inside of the nitro, but authorities have not confirmed if the remains are Daniel's. Jason says he doesn't charge any of the families. He just does this on his own time, with his own money. He simply just wants to help families of missing people. So here this guy is, spending his summer with his boogie board and his homemade sonar device, and he has now given 4 families a little bit of closure as to what kind of happened to their missing loved ones, gave them their remains so that they can bury them or do what they would like with them. I mean, it's insane to me, but in like a good way. You know what I mean?
He's really using his power for good, because he's obviously very intelligent to have created this. It's his line of work, and he found a way to use it to help others. Mm-hmm. And that's really what humankind is about. It should be about taking your strengths and using that to help others in community.
And he had like one message that he wanted to get out there, and that was like families of missing people. He said, don't stop doing news stories, pushing local news outlets to get your family member story out there, because that has helped him, do research on missing persons cases, find out if anything new has popped up. That's how he's been able to find up-to-date information. And Heather, we can also speak on that, as we do research into the cases that we share every week. You take that person's name and you Google it and you try and find multiple, different stories that are on the internet so that you can validate information, have up-to-date information, so that is something that definitely if you or if you know someone that does have a loved one that's missing, keep that story out there, because it is so valuable. Not to just share like we need to find this person, but also to the people that want to help spread that message so that when we're doing our research, we can find it.
Sometimes small factors that are going to be detrimental of like they were seen, there was a verified sighting of the person in a different state. And also speaking from the newsroom angle of that, I know it can be difficult for families to get your loved one's story out there with how the news cycle works. Because if you're like, my relative has been missing for 5 years, and someone's like, oh, are there new developments, when they're trying to come up with a way to pitch the story to the newsroom or whatever, some people may be deterred from pursuing that story if there haven't been developments. But don't stop sending that information. Your loved one's life matters. Knowing what happened to them matters. Everyone has a story, and everyone deserves to be found, and every family deserves to have answers. But also, we live in this wonderful time of social media that, when used properly, is a great platform for giving a voice to the voiceless in that sense. Just one person shares the post, and then one of their friends shares the post, and suddenly you have people across the country who have seen it and are aware of the situation now. They may not be able to join a current search party, but they can help spread awareness, and sometimes maybe that's what you need the most.
Social media and the internet, it opens up so many eyes to seeing content and seeing things they probably otherwise wouldn't have seen, because you might not live near XYZ, but you can be friends or follow someone who does have ties to different communities. And when they do share that content, you are now opening that up to so many more people that otherwise would not have seen it.
I mean, honestly, I probably see more from people sharing on social media than the local outlets. Like even the story you just shared, for example, I wouldn't have seen that on WRAL. I'm not checking Myrtle Beach news. Keep sharing, keep the information flowing, be a good community member. Let's help each other out.
This Jason guy, he even says like he heard of the idea from YouTube of making a homemade sonar device. Like, who even knew that was a thing, but it goes along with exactly what we were saying. He came across it on YouTube, saw it, was like, I could totally do that, made the device himself, and now look at what he's doing.
Yeah. And I can't wait to see how many more people he helps. I hope he keeps sharing his story with others too.
Mm-hmm. I am going to try and track him down, and I would love to bring him on here to Crime Over Wine Weekly and talk to him. So fingers crossed that we can make that happen, but I definitely would just love to hear from him.
I would too. I might be a little starstruck there. He's too smart. He's too smart for me. Be intimidated. And still to come on Crime Over Wine Weekly, a California veteran walks away from his home one cold January night and hasn't been seen since. Plus, more than 4 years after her arrest, the Florida woman charged with killing her boyfriend in a suitcase still hasn't gone to trial. Why there have been so many delays and when the judge says the case will move forward.
Crime Over Wine is proud to support Emancipet. Today, there are over 60 million beloved pets across the country whose families cannot access or afford veterinary care. With your help, Emancipet is changing that. Emancipet is a nonprofit that offers low-cost vet care for those who need it most. They rely on donations to keep their costs low for pet families across the country. You can support Emancipet's mission at emancipet.org. Hello, everybody. This is Liam Collins, the host of the podcast Crime Over Wine, and your Wine Wednesday just got so much better. Every week, we share a new true crime story over a new bottle of wine. So your new true crime adventure starts right now, every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcasts.
An Oklahoma mother is desperate to find her son. Sean Yanez disappeared in January 1999. His mom says he disappeared from the family home 25 years ago. She said when she got home, there were a couple of Budweiser tall boys in the sink, and his cigarettes were there, but Sean was nowhere to be found. His mom says police did some property searches after he went missing. They also looked in rivers and creeks, but they haven't found any clues. His mom says Sean had a 6-year-old son, and he wouldn't have left his son. His mom says Sean was using drugs at the time that he disappeared. If you have any information, call the Telequela police at 918-456-8801.
A veteran walked away from his California home on a cold January night in 2016 and hasn't been seen since. Troy Galloway's family says he struggled with mental health and addiction, but he never abandoned his children. Troy enlisted in the Marines in 2000. His father says he developed schizoaffective disorder and given an honorable discharge in 2003. On January 13, 2016, Troy left his home after a fight with his wife. He wasn't dressed for the snowy weather, wearing a short-sleeved t-shirt and tennis shoes. About 30 minutes after leaving home, Troy's cell phone was turned off and he hasn't been heard from since. Tips led the sheriff's office to search a lake in Troy's neighborhood twice, once in 2016 and again in 2021, but there was no sign of Troy either time. Troy would be 42 years old today. He's described as a white man with brown hair. He's 6'1" and about 170 pounds. He has several tattoos. If you have any information about Troy's whereabouts, contact the Tuolumne County Sheriff's Office at 209-533-5855. This week, I'm going to tell you about the alleged suitcase killer in Winter Park, Florida. Sarah Boone called 911 the afternoon of February 24, 2020, saying her boyfriend, Jorge Torres Jr., was dead. Boone told investigators she and Torres were drinking the night before and thought it would be funny if he got in a suitcase during a game of hide and seek. Investigators say Boone admitted to zipping the suitcase closed with Torres inside, went upstairs and fell asleep. She woke up the next morning and found him still inside, unresponsive. While Boone's statements painted a tragic accident, evidence showed a much different reality. The Orange County Sheriff's Office says investigators found video on Boone's phone, where Torres can be seen trying to escape the suitcase, calling for help and yelling he couldn't breathe. In the video, Boone is heard saying, quote, "That's what I feel like when you cheat on me." Boone was arrested shortly after on one count of second-degree murder. Fast forward more than 4 years since her arrest, and Boone has yet to go to trial. but she has gone through 8 lawyers, several of which resigned due to irreconcilable differences. After Boone's last attorney dropped her in June, she wrote a 58-page letter to the court, saying she is not the problem. According to Court TV, the letter also included more than a dozen pages of legal definition and excerpts from the Declaration of Independence. The following month, the judge ruled Boone has forfeited her right to court-appointed counsel and must represent herself at trial. Boone has argued with the judge that she doesn't want to represent herself and is now seeking a 9th lawyer to take her case. On July 18th, Boone filed a handwritten letter to the court that included an ad to the court that says inmate seeking attorney, and that a, quote, epic opportunity awaits. Boone appeared at a hearing earlier this month saying she's unprepared due to lack of internet access in jail, requesting media be banned from future proceedings, and to not be handcuffed during hearings and the trial. The judge agreed to remove Boone's cuffs. Days after her first unrestrained appearance, Boone was accused of hiding staples in her clothes to alter them. Boone's trial is scheduled to begin October 7th, and the judge is adamant it will go on as planned.
All right. She sounds fun.
Hashtag Florida woman?
The lack of internet access claim is interesting because a lot of them now do have access. I mean, maybe it depends on what type of status she is inside of the jail that she's at, but I mean, a lot of them they'll either be kiosks or iPads or, something like that.
So she does have a laptop and has had access to a USB drive. The judge did give her, I forgot what the person's official name is, but they were court appointed to help gather evidence on her behalf. So I'm guessing that that's being provided via USB on a laptop because she's complaining that she's not able to keep the laptop charged well enough either. She's got a lot of complaints.
And the staples in her clothes, was that to maybe make things fit better?
Yeah, so she basically hemmed the sleeves in her pants to make them look more flattering, but doing so made them contraband and she was issued new clothes. I included that in there just as an example of she argued to be unrestrained. In her very first hearing where she's unrestrained, they find staples in her clothing once she goes back to jail. It's like, you're not helping your case here.
The 58-page letter, was that the handwritten one? Either way,
yeah,
I will give her props to committing to 58 handwritten pages.
Just who do you think you are that you needed to write a 58-page letter to a judge with a glossary of legal terms as if he doesn't know what those are, and excerpts from the Declaration of Independence? Like, what are you, Thomas Jefferson reincarnated? Calm down.
When I was reporting full time, I would get a lot of jail mail, and one letter I got, it was handwritten, and it had the most beautiful cursive penmanship I've ever seen. And all of it, and it was computer paper, so there weren't lines, but it was perfectly straight, and it was a guy. It was a guy that wrote it. He was serving a life sentence for prison, but it was the most beautiful handwriting I've ever seen in my entire life.
At least he had that going for him.
I just have to say, I was very impressed.
Okay, but I've seen some jail mail to newsrooms that include some very beautiful leather crafts too. They're doing some pretty cool arts and crafts in there sometimes. I had one anchor at another station I was at who had this one specific inmate who sent her leather crafts. One of them was a beautiful wallet, very well made leather wallet.
Wow.
Yeah, so they can do some cool stuff. I've seen some very talented drawings coming from inmates. And I guess that's another, inmates are still humans. They may have done terrible things. Some of them haven't done that terrible of things. Some of them are in there for marijuana use. But they're still at the core humans who had other talents and gifts that are going by the wayside because of life choices.
Well, and I think it's very much human nature. Our brains are wanting to be creative and do things and think things through. And I think that's very normal. And, when you are serving time and there's a lot of downtime, can totally understand the different things that they do to pass the time, you know?
That, and also art therapy is genuinely helpful form of therapy, that if these people had that outlet to express themselves, to work through if there's mental illness or whatever, maybe could have gone down different paths. Could some of these people have been rehabilitated and had different lives before they did XYZ that landed them in jail?
Yeah. I mean, definitely, especially when dealing with things like anger and sadness and feelings of rejection, or not understanding how to solve conflict or move on, you know, from things like, absolutely. And a lot of times it can be generational. And so when you've never learned how to work through emotions like that, a lot of people resort to violence. Unfortunately, that's the way that it will come out. So definitely, I am just sipping away on this wine.
Damn, I have
definitely
finished
goes
one
down
glass, and
very smooth.
I feel like this has made me philosophical. Maybe there's some like legit angelic juice in this or something. I'm feeling a little like, let's love one another. Let's find justice.
Happy juice.
I'm not happy. I'm preaching. More wine. Liam's favorite sound. You know how some people go to sleep with sounds of the ocean? Liam goes to sleep just repeated wine pouring.
I watched another docuseries. This one was the Face to Face with Scott Peterson on Peacock, and I just have to talk it out. If you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth watching. I can't remember how many episodes it is, maybe 3. So this is the first time that Scott Peterson has spoken to like any sort of media from prison. So he did some interviews back when Lacey was first missing, but got like a lot of flack for just his demeanor back then, some of the things that he was saying, some of the things he wasn't saying, body language, just kind of things like that. So I watched this, and so he was talking like via like a video chat from prison, and they also talked to some of the investigators that were on the case, but then they also talked to his sister-in-law. So she's married to his brother, or one of his brothers, and I've seen her do other interviews too, but the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, why is no one else from the family talking? Like, I get it, like she was part of the family when, you know, everything happened. She knew Lacey. Like, I get that. But I also was like, well, where's your brother? You know, or where's other people in the family that are closer? So then it like later reveals that the sister-in-law is now a lawyer. Like, she ended up going to law school because of Scott's case. And like, so I was like, oh, okay, like I get it. But I still was like, where's your other family? Like, it just, to me, like, if I had a family member in this situation and I truly, truly felt like they were innocent and they've been done wrong, I would be like preaching it from the rooftops. But then also, so with the stuff that Scott was saying, he was emotional, and not like overly emotional, but there was like times where he would kind of cry a little bit and say things, and like the number one thing that he has been criticized for is his lack of emotion and things like that. And now all of a sudden he's doing it, and it's like, yeah, of course now you're going to do this, you know, because you're so close to getting a new trial. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't know. It was interesting. It was interesting to watch.
I haven't seen it, but a few thoughts without seeing it. Maybe his attorney hired an acting coach for him so he can come across as more personable and earn more sympathy than he did the first time. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. Other potential is maybe the attorney has advised against other family members speaking out if they also come across as unpersonable or unlikable on camera. And that might just be because they're quieter, more reserved. Some people just don't do well on camera. So maybe they've been advised to not speak on camera because it wouldn't help his case. Or maybe they don't believe he's innocent. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to go camera and be like, my brother didn't do it. He didn't kill his wife. If I deep down in my heart believed he killed Lacey, like, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Those are just my thoughts.
Well, I'm also like, so, he had the chance to take the stand in his own defense in his first trial, and he didn't. And the documentary does talk about that, and it said that his lawyer, because of the negative reaction to how he was in those earlier interviews, advised him, like, don't do it. But also, I just, like, something that big, an accusation that big, like, I would be like, I have to go on the stand. Like, I did not do this. Like, I don't know. I have mixed reaction on it, but who knows?
Yeah, I could see that, because I feel like if I was in that position, I would want to be able to defend myself. But I also feel like I have to trust the opinion of the person who is a professional at defending people in my situation. When they say, hey, it's going to do more harm to your case than help, you need to just sit back and let us represent you and defend you. But I'm also very stubborn and would probably fire that attorney and get a new one.
Well, and also, like, think about it like this, if he does end up being granted a new trial, him speaking, this is a way that his team and his attorneys can kind of do a test run and see what is the reaction from people that watched this documentary, and has it changed? You know what I mean? Has it changed their opinion of him? And then they could utilize that information when making a decision if he could possibly take the stand, with a second chance. I don't know, but
it's just like a politician.
Very much, very much. Anyway, again, Face to Face with Scott Peterson. It's on Peacock if you're looking for something to watch. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening. If you can't get enough of Crime Over Wine, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And don't forget to check out our website, crimeoverwine.com. The store is officially open, and don't forget to sign up for the newsletter.
We will see you this Wine Wednesday for an episode of Crime Over Wine, and we'll see you next Monday for the next episode of Crime Over Wine Weekly.
Proud member of the Podnuga Network.